Finally, it's time.
The latest,
ladies and gentlemen, it's the day. The day is today. Donald Trump's big day. Okay, let's put on our big boy hats and let's sit the fuck down. Let's sit our white asses down and listen. Donald Trump claimed that he was going to get arrested imminently last week on today. Okay, now Donald Trump has done this very same thing time and time again, where he has made it seem as though he is getting arrested or like has greatly exaggerated. Okay, he has greatly exaggerated what the federal government is trying to do to him or what any kind of fucking local law enforcement is doing to him. And unfortunately for us, it seems like this is yet another moment where he greatly exaggerated it, but he got the fucking hogs riled up a little bit. But not enough, it seems. Maybe not enough. Let's take a look at what happened.
Former President Donald Trump claimed that he's going to be arrested later today. And while there is no evidence that that is going to happen, there are signs that the Manhattan DA is wrapping up an investigation into Trump's involvement in a hush money payment. Aaron Katersky is at the courthouse in downtown Manhattan. Good morning, Aaron.
Michael, good morning to you. This was the day former President Trump said he would be arrested. And while that seems unlikely to happen, the possibility of a looming indictment has this city on alert for protest. Overnight, former President Trump releasing an insult-filled statement on social media about prosecutors and Stormy Daniels after earlier making an unverified claim he would be arrested today, stemming from an investigation into a hush payment to the porn actress weeks before the 2016 election. It's not the payment, but the way Trump accounted for it that could make him the first former president to face criminal charges. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office has been investigating this for years, but in recent weeks called in former aides Kellyanne Conway and Hope Hicks, along with Michael Cohen, once Trump's fixer, who has already served federal prison time for writing the check, he says, at Trump's direction.
The facts are the facts. The truth is the truth. And the truth will always rise.
Robert Costello, a lawyer who testified for Trump and said he once advised Cohen, called him unreliable.
And I've listened to Michael Cohen stand in front of the courthouse and say things that are directly contrary to what he said to us.
Republicans, including one of Trump's potential 2024 rivals, said charging him now smells of politics and took a shot at the district attorney.
They weaponize their office to impose a political agenda on society.
On social media, Trump called for protest, and that has drawn the attention of law enforcement, seen here dropping metal barriers at court.
NYPD is doing their normal role of making sure that there's no inappropriate actions in the city.
Intelligence bulletins obtained by ABC News warn of a significant increase in threats and rhetoric.
I was still in the room. I just had to take my shoes off, but it was really hard to take my shoes off while also having the jacket on because the jacket is so fucking ill-fitting, unfortunately. But, I was just trying to get more comfortable. I'm still in the room. I'm watching all of it. But anyway, listen, there's a lot of things that these people have said thus far that I have to address here, okay? Now, Trump did, violate the law. Now, it might come across as like an insignificant portion of the law, and that's, I guess, up for debate. Okay? But, didn't motherfucking Michael Cohen go to prison for this? For his involvement in the matter? Why the fuck would Trump not also be hit with a RICO charge if Michael Cohen, who was operating for him, went to prison? That's oh, your hitman went to jail, but you as the leader of the entire thing, you should deserve no scrutiny whatsoever. It's the same fucking thing. I didn't hear these motherfuckers crying when Michael Cohen went to prison. Friend of the show, Michael Cohen, my boy. So I don't really understand. So the irony is people who are making it political are actually those on the right. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is they're literally openly stating no, you should, if you're Donald Trump, or if you are someone who is, a Republican at any given point in your life, you should be able to break the rules, violate the law, and do whatever the fuck you want and be able to get away with it. And it's actually political if you call us out. So what's up? What the fuck is up about that? What's going on there? No one told me Michael Cohen's... I've been on this podcast and I didn't know that was his fucking banger ass opening intro music. God damn, he's popping. All right, I gotta pee.
Some of Trump's most ardent supporters are still willing to fight on his behalf. And we're told there are no specific threats, but the NYPD and the U.S. Secret Service have started talking about security in the event Trump is indicted. Robin?
Aaron, our thanks to do. We're going to bring in our chief legal analyst, Dan Abramson. A lot to unpack here. Yeah. So now we have a witness that Trump wants to testify before the grand jury, Bob Costello.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
So he was there, and he made a statement after he testifies. And the most important thing that he says, basically, is Michael Cohen did this on his own. That's what Michael Cohen told me, in effect, is what he's saying. That this was all his idea. Okay, fair enough. There's no way, though, that you can bring this case without corroborating evidence of what Michael Cohen is saying. Everyone recognizes Michael Cohen is going to be somewhere between a difficult and a terrible witness because he's pled guilty, including to making false statements. So he's going to be a problematic witness. There's no way you don't have other evidence to back up what Michael Cohen is saying.
You also have Trump's current attorney and is also his former attorney, Rudy Giuliani, admitting that Trump knew about the payment. So what's the defense here?
The defense is that this was a nuisance lawsuit.
Wake up.
He paid the money.
Halt. You violated the law. Pay the fine or I will have to take matters into my own hands. That's what I would say to Donald Trump if I saw him right now. I'd say, sir, you have violated the law one too many times. This guy said whack fit. I'm sorry. Ethan Klein's thoughts would never say that my fit is whack. Okay? Ethan Klein would never in a million years say this fit is whack. And also, objectively good fit. Like, let's be real. Maybe you didn't see it when I originally posted it on my Instagram. So I'll just give you an opportunity to maybe recollect your thoughts here, okay? And even possibly give it a like while you're there on my Instagram, looking at the fit and seeing objectively that it is a good fit. Here it is, pretty classic, pretty clean. Maybe you can talk about the sizing of it a little bit. Obviously, the sizing of it is not great. It's a little short on the arms, and it's a little tight on the arms as well. I do have some, big ass biceps, but here, go ahead, give it a little like, give it a little comment in there. Don't be afraid. But let's get back to it.
But he didn't know exactly how it was going to be classified. He didn't know it was going to be classified, they're going to say, as legal expenses, which is the misclassification, right? Is this idea that this was hush money, but instead they called it legal expenses. And they're going to say he didn't know that it was being registered as legal expenses. This was nothing to him. It was just in passing. He wasn't paying attention, et cetera. The prosecution, of course, will come forward and say, we have evidence that Donald Trump knew exactly what this was about.
And we'll see. We don't know if an indictment is going to happen or not. But you say of all the cases that Trump is facing, this one would not be in the top of your list.
This is the worst one. Of all the investigations out there, you've got Atlanta, which is about overturning the election there. You've got the federal one, which is about the mishandling of the classified documents and obstruction of justice. There's a lot of evidence in those cases. This is about something that happened 7 years ago. This is about something where the Fed's already investigated. This is definitely the weakest of the group.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So here's the reality of the situation. Okay. As far as things that hit Trump on, paying hush money and misclassifying it, paying hush money to a porn star after an act of sex work, and then misclassifying it as though it's actually, something different. Yeah, it's the lowest rung. I mean, it's one where he is like objectively in the wrong, and people have gone to jail for it, right? The reason that this happened so long ago is because Trump's attorney general said that you can't prosecute a sitting president. Yeah, a sitting president. Yes. So there is that reality as well. Okay. There is obviously that reality as well. They blocked and pushed for as long as they did successfully. Okay. But it is kind of like putting Capone down for tax fraud, right? Nabbing him for tax fraud. That's kind of where that it's the similar mentality basically. Okay. However, there is a very real RICO case that's taking place in Georgia at the moment, and that is around the phone call that Donald Trump had, the very perfect phone call that he had, where he was trying to desperately. I said that earlier, stole my take. Well, yeah, exactly. I hadn't thought these things before. I'm stealing it from you. But he was trying to desperately plead I believe, Secretary of State at the time to find some votes. And the reality is he has done this a lot. There's a lot to hit Trump on. And in some respects, sorry, I just saw something. Things are going to be really fucking annoying for the rest of the day. But anyway, sorry. In some respects, the main point of defense from all of the Trump supporters. Okay, I thought my internet dropped. No. Donald Trump's defenders and people that worked under him and under his administration routinely blocked and pushed any kind of fucking criminal investigation being conducted on him, even though he was violating the law all the time. They said he's the president. You can't do anything about it. This is political. Now that he's no longer the president, you could technically prosecute him for shit. And now they're saying, well, it's been 4 years. You didn't do anything back then. How dare you do something now, as though you weren't the reason why they didn't stop doing it. And then the other defense, that's my favorite defense, okay? My favorite defense is like, well, there's all these other things that he did that you didn't care about. It's like, bro, at this point, Donald Trump's like wanton corruption, they're using it like it's a defense mechanism. They're saying like, well, he did a lot of fucking illegal shit and you didn't talk about any of that. It's like, that's not a defense, dog. That's not how that works, brother. That's not. Like, what do you mean? You violate the fucking law, okay? And you get punished for it. That's how it works. That's how it works for the everyday man, the average Joe. That's how it should work for Donald Trump as well. Now, obviously, one of the things I got to talk about here is how much the right is, chirping in unison and going crazy, okay? But the other thing I got to talk about is how little the left has been pushing for this. Now, do I think personally that this is like trumped up charges? Do I think that this is personally the weakest thing that you could nab him on? Yeah, I do. But if I was a Democratic Party operative, I would never say that. If I was a Democratic Party operative, I would do exactly what Republicans do all the time. Why do we give you money? What the fuck is the purpose for us to vote for you? Not me, myself included, but people that do. Why? Is it so you can sit there and not fucking weaponize something like this against Donald Trump and the Republican Party? If I was a Democratic Party operative right now, what would I be doing? I'd be screaming from the mountaintops that Donald Trump is so far removed from the everyday common person that he thinks he can not only get away and ruin the rule of law despite running on the rule of law, claiming that he is doing this for the rule of law, that he very much believes that he's above the law, and the same Republican Party is defending that. Is it okay? If we were to, I would literally do focus groups and figure out exactly what is the most targeted, most effective messaging where you could just talk about the actual crime that Donald Trump did, the actual crime that Donald Trump engaged in, using campaign funds, utilizing campaign funds to pay hush money to a porn star, and ask individually in focus groups whether or not that is an appropriate thing to do, and figure out what the best, most effective way to propagandize against that position is, and then go off from the fucking mountaintops, constantly talking about wow, it sure seems like a lot of people are thinking that it's okay to take money from your campaign coffers and pay a porn star hush money to the tune of millions? Do you think that's appropriate? Sir, so much for the moral party, so much for family values. Explain to me where the family values are. I, for one, am shocked. This is disqualifying. I haven't heard any of this shit. What the fuck's going on? Maybe it's because Democrats are not doing that because they realize, just like we do, that, oh, it wasn't $1 million. Sorry, it was 100,000. Maybe they're doing that, one, because they don't give a shit, or two, because they are you know, they're worn out. They got nothing. They're fucking worn out, and they know that it's not going to do anything for them. Please don't let this be true. All right, the Trump Clown Show. See key witness, scorch Trump's allies' testimony.
By former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen. He hosts the Mea Culpa podcast. He's the author of...
Okay, now we got to play the Mea Culpa podcast banger before...
This is my mea culpa. Oh, baby, don't lie for me. If I tell you my story, don't cry for me. I did my time, that's fine by me. This is my...
Bro, what did he hire the fucking Sopranos intro music guy? Like, what the fuck's happening? It's crazy. I was on this podcast and I didn't even fucking know that this theme music was... I was on this podcast. For those of you who don't know, Michael Cohen is a former friend of the show, maybe current friend of the show. Who knows? I've been on his podcast.
This is Michael Cohen, and you're listening to a special broadcast of the Mea Culpa podcast. Well, folks, it's all finally happening. For the first time in our nation's history, an American president is about to go down for paying hush money to a porn star. So booyah!
None of this is a satire. This is real, bro. He literally is he is this guy. You'll hear him now.
Of the book, Revenge, How Donald Trump Weaponized the U.S. You have been in the news a lot. Thank you for being here on The Beat tonight.
It's always good to see you, Ari.
You went down there today. Did you testify?
I did not. I was asked to be a potential rebuttal witness. The prosecutors determined that my rebuttal was not necessary, and so I was released.
Not necessary today, according to them. Mr. Costello said several things. I'll start with a fairly narrow one.
He sure did. He said a lot of things today.
As a narrow matter, he asserted that he says you are testifying again on Wednesday. Is that true?
Okay, so very much like most of everything that came out of his mouth, he lacks for any sense of veracity here. There's no accuracy to his statement. I have not been asked to come back on Wednesday. And moreover, something that you would know as well. The prosecutors will not tell you if you are or you're not coming back. They just don't do that. They'll let you know at the last moment or at least the day before. So how he has this specific information just goes to show you he is exactly who he is. And that, of course, would be Rudy Giuliani's attorney.
Yeah, and in this process, and I've reminded viewers, there is a...
It's wild that, like, shit that the public should not know, Donald Trump is already aware of, and is, like, openly telling to the rest of the public. Like, these are... Like, a grand jury indictment is supposed to be, like, a private affair. Because you don't want the grand jury to, like, feel pressured from the motherfucking person that they're indicting. And that is precisely what Donald Trump did, by the way. Remember when everyone was saying, oh, I can't believe Derek Chauvin, who is definitely a murderer, by the way, and is in prison now, was being, you know, the jury was being pressured by the media constantly covering this high-profile case, right? Like, that's witness tampering. That's, destroying the fucking actual, the veracity of the court. That's destroying the fucking actual sanctity of the court, whatever, right? Meanwhile, this kind of like actual fucking jury tampering is completely allowed because it's the president doing it, and there's nothing you can do on that.
Possibility for someone who may be facing indictment to ask for people to go forward. So that may be the way that we're hearing from him. Do you know about any future testimony from yourself, him, or any other witnesses? Or at this point, you're just on standby?
Right. So again, I wouldn't know about anybody else. Throughout this entire process, I didn't know who was coming in, nor would the prosecutors tell you.
Yeah.
I can tell you emphatically that I have not been asked to come back on Wednesday.
Okay.
As of this moment.
When he says he was speaking with you and advising you, was he your lawyer at the time?
No. In fact, there's so many things about his statement which is untrue. First and foremost, that I reached out to them. I didn't know Bob Costello from a hole in the wall. In fact, the senior partner of the firm, Jeffrey Citron, is the one who introduced us and said, we should speak. And so we set up a meeting. They came. I think either they brought me a retainer or they said they were sending one or a letter of engagement. I never signed it. He was never my lawyer.
So he was not at that time your authorized lawyer. Then he says separately, you did, he says, waive attorney-client privilege. Is that true?
That's another one. If in fact that I waived attorney-client privilege, I'd like to know when, how, where. I don't recall waiving anything, but again, this is I don't know what he's talking about.
Did you sign anything when you were dealing with SDNY like that?
Not that I recall, no.
All right, let's play this part.
Yeah.
This is, and by the way, he's got his point. You get to respond. Let me play it, then you'll respond. Because he says, oh, this was, quote, stupid, etc. Let's listen.
They notified me that Michael Cohen had executed a waiver of the attorney-client privilege for reasons I have no idea. Frankly, it was a very stupid move by Michael Cohen, because now we're able to tell the truth about what Michael Cohen was saying at any point in time starting in April of 2018.
Dude, this is like liberal media react meta. Yeah. Is Cohen a leftist? Why did you go on his pod? I go on people who I disagree with all the time, and it was for the memes for the most part. I thought it was like funny.
So that's why I wanted to get those materials that I gave to the U.S. Attorney's Office and sat for a 2-hour interview with them back in 2019, after which, you may have noticed, the Southern District of New York didn't do any business with Michael Cohen. There's a reason for that. He's totally unreliable.
You get the benefit of responding.
Yeah, so the reason the Southern District of New York didn't do anything with me is because of, just read Jeffrey Berman's book, and you already know the answer, that they were being pressured by Maine justice within which to do things. Bob Costello, if he was any more imaginary in the statements that are coming out of his mouth, he'd be a #1 New York Times best-selling fiction author. I don't know what he's talking about in terms of signing anything with the Southern District of New York. I'd like to see it. Now, if in fact that there was something that was signed, perfect. I will own the fact that I'm making a mistake, but I don't recall signing anything.
But you don't remember that?
I do not. Not to mention, let's not forget, the Southern District on a Friday night contacted, after meeting with my lawyer at the time, not him, he was never my lawyer, and told me that you have to come in on Monday and plead guilty, or we're filing an 80-page indictment that's going to include my wife. So I don't know when he's talking about this meeting that I had with the Southern District of New York. I would like to know the answer.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, and this is something that, again, is worth responding to once. We're not going to be airing it over and over. But you and I know, as lawyers and the experience you've been in, there are people who face very serious pressure. That's why it's called pressure. And whether what they say under pressure is 100% true forever or a sense of their anxiety, I don't know. Here's what he said about that, because you're reminding folks that there was this idea that they were going to try to go after you and your family, etc. Here's what he said, and it includes, again, and I want to say this as respectfully as possible, because there are people who do have mental health challenges, or they do talk about suicide. That alone doesn't mean you're not reliable in a case. But this is the allegation he makes.
April of 2018, April 17th, I believe, we met with Michael Cohen for the first time at the Regency Hotel at his request. Michael was in a manic state. He told us that he had contemplated suicide, that he had been up on the roof of the Regency.
Okay, I got to say something here. Like, I mean, one, this guy is cooking Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen himself is really not reacting that hard. Like, not to be a guy who says, like, maybe react a little harder, forehead, but, like, honestly, react harder, Michael Cohen. Like, what the fuck's going on? What is this? What is this? I mean, there's an art to this. MSNBC is trying to do what I do, okay? And quite frankly, it's not working, okay? There's an art to what this is, okay? A lot of people don't understand the work we put in. Like, for example, sneaking in an order for a sweet green salad in between the MSNBC clip. You know what I mean? This is not easy. Not everyone can do it, but I can. There's an art to running the top of the hour ad break in between moments and pausing and acting like you didn't actually forget and that you were reminded by glancing over at the chat. But still, it doesn't matter. Fuck you. That still debated you regardless. And now everyone is going to say 3 out of 10, but it doesn't matter because we all know in your heart of hearts that it was a 9 out of 10. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone can serve the top of the hour ad break and then tell you that if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime, while simultaneously logging my calories in from last night because unfortunately Chipotle was closed by then. So I had to order Chick-fil-A. Homophobic chicken. That's right. I had that. I fucking had that shit, dude. Straight up. I'll say it. I'll admit it. I had some homophobic ass chicken last night and quite frankly, thought. Want to know where I had that homophobic chicken? In the motherfucking bathtub, sitting in Epsom salt. Sauce, Chick-fil-A and Polynesian, you know it. Chicken in the bathtub is slutty. I am the biggest slut.
Hotel the weekend before, seriously considering jumping off because he couldn't face the enormity of the legal problems he knew were coming his way.
Is that true?
Well, parts of that are
Replay
actually
it
true.
back,
I was incredibly distraught. Remember, I have never in my life had an issue with law enforcement. Actually, one time in 1985, I was driving back to college. I was going 13, 14 miles an hour over the speed limit, and I got a speeding ticket, the one and only in my entire life. Other than that, I've never had run-ins with law enforcement.
Yes, so let me put it like this. I mean, it almost seems like in that pressure, you shared or confided in Mr. Costello.
Yeah,
and now he's trying to say that because you were stressed.
Bro, this is literally like Twitch streamer drama, but like with actual legal consequences, like legal implications, and related to the fucking president. I'm like losing my mind. Michael Cohen is like, Michael Cohen is like saying like you're leaking the DMs. I confided in you when I felt in my weakest moment. That doesn't make me a bad fucking witness in this situation. That doesn't make me a bad character witness. That also is really fucked up. And not only that, but also, can you give facts for once? Like, can you, instead of, claiming that I did something, can you show me the proof of where I actually waived my attorney-client privilege? And the other guy's like, no.
And I think everyone could, judge not lest you be judged first, but people get stressed out. He seems to be trying to use that against the rest of your story. Is that fair?
No, it's not. In fact, it's a typical Donald J. Trump play out of the playbook. Figure out how you're going to muddy the water as best as you possibly can. Denigrate the person, disparage them. They did the same thing to Cassidy Hutchinson. They did the same thing to anyone and everyone that is for the truth. And the beauty that I have is I have facts. I have truth. I have the documentation. Let me rephrase that. The district attorney has the documentation in order to validate every single statement that I've made and to basically dispel anything that Bob Costello has to say, which is probably, again, why they didn't need me for rebuttal.
My last question on Mr. Costello's approach, and then I have another factual piece. When you watch that, what does it make you think of him?
Well, I think he's a clown, which is exactly why after the repeated attempts to get on my legal team or to be my attorney, which of course was all directed by Rudy and those that be there in Washington, D.C. at the time, I had no interest. And there's even statements of me hanging up on him, and we had some arguments on the phone where I want to be left alone by you.
So you think Mr. Giuliani and others may have been trying to use him to play like he was on your side and then use that against you, which seems like part of what he's doing today.
Yes, it seems like it to me, too.
You were out here just doing...
This part is so boring. Like, I don't understand. Okay, let's watch this.